Hi, Stan.
Hi. Who's that,
Hi.
Gail?
Gail and Marcia.
Okay. Brave people out in the rain.
Yeah, well, they have it's their Minion Week too, so
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
The L week. Yeah.
it's the L week. All right, so let's get started. I prepared 9 pages of text
Wow.
for you. I promise you, we will not cover all of it.
I would have read Vayhi, and it was. Literally.
Well, you know,
Yeah, it makes it good in Hebrew is not necessarily good English.
right? No, and also, I mean, just in terms of translation, you know, one of the things that we're getting away from is a kind of slavish literalism, okay? And because va generally means and, but vayehi does not mean and it came to pass. What it is, it's a vav
that makes the future.
it's a vav conversive, which changes the tense.
Right.
So, all right, so the translation here is it came to pass. And in the eighth frame, it's now when Pharaoh let the people go, which is less accurate, like word for word, but may be actually a better translation because when you're starting something with a vav, it's a consecutive motion. It's a continuation from what was before. Now remember that even the most traditional Jew doesn't believe that the Parsha divisions were given at Sinai, right? And the fact that it begins a new Parsha according to the Masoretic division doesn't mean that it's not a continuation of what was going before. All right, so Vayhi Beshalach Paro et ha'am, when Pharaoh let the people go, V'lo naham Elohim derech eretz plishtim, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, ki karovhu. I'm not going to translate ki because that's one of the things Rashi is going to deal with. All right, ki, it was near. Ki amar, ki he said. Ki amar Elohim, ki Elohim said. Pen yinachem ha'am berotam milchama v'shavu mitzrayma, lest the people reconsider, regret, have second thoughts when they see war and return to Egypt. Okay. All right. So I'm not going to look at every Rashi here because there's just way too much. So the second Rashi, ki karovhu, for it was near. All right, how does although it was nearer? Okay. And v'noach lashuv ba'oto haderech lemitzrayim. Although it was near, for it was near, and it was easy to return by that road to Egypt, there are also many Agadic midrashim. Midrashay Agada yesh harbe. Okay, so and I mean, there are legitimately, I think, 2 ways of translating ki, right? One is although, right, even though that is the opposite of the way we usually understand the word ki. And another is, in fact, because, right, that God didn't lead them that way because it was near, and it would be easier to return home. Okay, so let's look a little bit at the Eitz Chaim, even though this isn't a class on Eitz Chaim. Right, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although it was nearer. The Hebrew word translated here as although ki has several different meanings. The commentators differ in their understanding of the word and of God's purpose in leading Israel by a longer, less direct route. Some see it as an act of kindness and consideration on God's part. One commentator translates ki karov hu as because God was near to them. All right, now he should have explained this better. Ki karov hu, the who in this case, right, is not referring to the root, it's referring to God, right? God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, ki karov hu, because he was near to them, right? And so it was for their own benefit, and therefore did not want to risk having some of them killed in a battle with the Philistines. Others give it a psychological interpretation, thus Rashi. God did not lead Israel through Philistine territory precisely because it was close, and it would have been too tempting to become discouraged and return to Egypt. Ramban, although the way through Philistine territory was more direct, God was afraid that the people would be discouraged if they had to fight their way through. Okay, we can stop here. In other words, the issue, and it's hard to separate this because we know that they're going to immediately see war, right? But this isn't talking about war with the Egyptians. This is talking about war with the Philistines, right? That if they wanted, and as we see later on, you know, particularly in the book of Numbers, they do come into conflict with other nations as they're seeking to pass through their land, right? And if you look at a map, right, and I mean, and this is a piece of land that is familiar enough to all of us, right? That if you're leaving Egypt, right, and let's say you're in Cairo, right, and you want to go to Eretz Yisrael, right, just right up the coast, right, the Via Maris, and that takes you through the land of the Philistines, which is today Gaza, right through Gaza, right, to go to the shore of the Red Sea and then through the desert, you know, that doesn't really make sense, right? Okay. Berotam milchama, when they see war. For instance, the war of and the Amalekites and the Canaanites descended, etc., right? Like I said in Numbers. If they had gone in a direct route, they would have returned. Now, if when he led them around in a circuitous route, they said, let us appoint the leader and return to Egypt, how much more would they have planned to do this if he had led them on a direct route? Okay. I'm not 100%. I mean, I understand what he's saying. I'm not sure I 100% get what's behind it, right? In other words, what he's saying is they sought to rebel, right? The whole book of Numbers, one revolt after another, and they did it at one point, even wanted to depose Moses and go back to Egypt. And so Rashi is saying if they wanted to do this, even after all that circuitous route, then all the more so if it had been
close by and straight.
Right.
Well, close by in strength, and also just coming out of slavery immediately to run into war, they would turn around and run back to safety.
Right. Right, and that's what the next Rashi is. Pen Yinachem, lest they reconsider. Yinachem. That really doesn't mean, again, some of these words, it's not always easy to translate them, right? Now, But this root, Yinachem, is the same root that God uses when he regrets having committed human beings and sends the flood. Okay, so it's not just reconsider. It's not just reconsider. It's stronger than reconsider. It's to regret, right? So God is afraid that the people will regret. Right here in Etzanim, it says the people may have a change of heart. Okay. All right. Yachshavu machshava al sheyatsu v'yitnu lev l'shuv. They will have second thoughts about having left, and they will set their heart on returning. Why? Because they prefer slavery to war, right? They prefer slavery to war, and it's not necessarily an irrational decision.
You live one way and the other
Right.
way.
You might not be happy, but you're on.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not what God
Intended.
it's not what
Right.
God intended, right? So, verse 18. Vayasev Elohim et ha'am derech hamidbar yam suf v'hamushim alu b'nei Yisrael mi'eretz Mitzrayim. All right, so this root vayasev, it carries a sense of circuitous, right? Like it might be a word that you know that uses the same
Well, Sivivon.
sevivon,
Yeah.
right? A sevivon is called a sevivon because it's
Circus that goes around.
right. Right. So God spun them around, right? Derech Hamidbar, spun the people around by way of the desert, Yam Suf to the Red Sea, the Hamushim Alu V'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim. And the people went, the Israelites went up Hamushim from the land of Egypt. Okay, so Vayasev Hasibem min haderech hapshuta laderech ha'akuma. He led them around from a direct route to a circuitous route. Right. Well, we know already that. Yam Suf. All right. Now here, first of all, it's a grammar question, right? It says Derech Hamidbar Yam Suf. Why doesn't it say Derech Hamidbar Le Yam Suf? Right.
To the
Right. And he says it's the same thing. Suf hu lashon agam shegedilim bo kenim kamo vatasem basuf kane vasuf hamalu. Okay, so he's explaining what suf is. Suf is reeds. Okay, it means a marsh where reeds grow, and he brings other instances where the Torah uses that word suf.
yeah, and of course our translation just said the sea of reeds
Right,
all the time.
right, right. Because it's clearly not the Red Sea.
Right, right.
That's a little.
Right.
A little distance.
That was even more circuitous.
You're right, right.
All right. Now, this word hamushim is unclear, okay? Because it seems to carry within it the word hamesh. Five. Okay, so there are all kinds of midrashic explanations that hamushim alu b'nei Yisrael mi Mitzrayim means that actually only a fifth of the people left Egypt. Okay, that 4/5 of them actually preferred to stay.
You didn't paint their doors.
Right. They preferred to stay. They preferred the security of slavery over the insecurity of freedom. Right? But that's not where Rashi's going, right? Rashi says, Ein hamushim ela mezuyanim. Hamushim means armed, okay? And that's what Eitz Chaim says too. They went up armed, and there's no comment on that at all. But Rashi has a lot to say. All right. Since he led them around the desert circuitously, he caused them to go up armed. For if he had led them around through civilization, they would not have had to provide for themselves with everything that they needed, but only part. Like a person who travels from place to place and intends to purchase there whatever he will need. But if he travels a long distance into a desert, he must prepare all his necessities for himself. This verse was written only to clarify the matter, so you should not wonder where they got weapons in the war with Amalek and the wars with Sichon and Og and Midian, for the Israelites smote them with the sword. Okay. Right, so, now, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense in a way because otherwise you might say, hey, what the hell? Where did they get weapons?
Yeah, well, I already said that.
Right?
I was thinking that. I mean, I know we know that they got all their little jewelry and stuff, but there was no comment on weapons.
Right.
Right.
Or while they were at it, borrowed some of them, some of them.
So if they had gone, because the land of the Philistines, that is civilization.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fairly high level of civilization. The Philistines were traders. They were sea people. They originally apparently came from someplace in the Mediterranean. Yeah. Not sure exactly where, but maybe Cyprus, maybe the Greek Isles, maybe even Sicily or Sardinia,
But they came from one of those.
But they came from, right, so they were, and they had cities, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Gat. They had cities, right? So now, of course, you could say yes, but if they had gone via the route of the Philistines, sure, they could have purchased weapons from the Philistines, but we just learned that they didn't go by the way of Philistines, that the Philistines would have made war on them. So, I'm not sure. But the point is, Rashi doesn't want you sometime in Leviticus or Numbers, hey, what the hell, where did they get weapons from? Okay, now, Rashi does also give another interpretation. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sixth line up, right, where it says another interpretation.
Yeah.
Hamushim means divided by 5, meaning that 1 out of 5 Hamisha Israelites went out, and 4/5 died during the 3 days of darkness.
Ooh. Or maybe the died is that they just died out as being part of Klal Yisrael. Or he didn't say physically.
No, he means that they died.
Yeah.
Right? Now that was in last week's Parsha, and I don't have the Rashi, in front of me. So, but you have the site if you want to. I mean, it's all online, so you can find it. If you just go to Google and type Chumash with Rashi, you'll come up with, this is where I get this from. Okay. Moses took Joseph's bones with them, for he had adjured the sons of Israel, saying, God will surely remember you, and you shall bring up my bones from here with you. All right. So, for he had adjured.
Yeah.
All right.
That's word I don't know in English, let alone in Hebrew. I don't know that word.
Really?
Well, he exacted an oath. I assume that would be a good translation of the word adjure. Because obviously to add and jure means law.
Right.
Right. Right.
I mean, I could figure it out, but it was not a word in my vocabulary.
Okay.
How
Well,
often do you say it?
all right. So what Rashi is trying to explain is this usage hishbia hashbea, or hishbia hosh
Yeah.
Oh, it,
hashbea hishbia.
because it looks like a double word.
It is a double word, but it's a very normal way in biblical Hebrew of using a stress, like surely, okay? Like somebody who has committed a capital crime and should be put to death, mot yumat, okay? Is one example. Mot yumat means he shall surely be put to death. Okay, so if you but the question always is, how much biblical grammar did Rashi and the other commentators actually know? I mean, right? I mean, the fact that a university professor will tell you, "Oh, this is entirely normal," doesn't mean that Rashi thought it was entirely normal. And Rashi has another explanation. Now, is this literal or midrashic? I don't know, but it's what he says. Okay. The double expression indicates that Joseph had made his brothers swear that they would make their children swear. All right, so that's the hishbia hashbea. Hishbia is he made the brothers swear, but he made them swear that they would make their children swear, right? Because Joseph is well aware
that they ain't going out too fast.
right, that they ain't going out too fast, right? And so, if he simply makes the brothers swear, well,
it'll be lost in antiquity.
right, it'd be right, exactly. All right. So why did he not make his sons swear to carry him to the land of Canaan immediately when he died, as Jacob had made him swear, right? And it's puzzling, right? I mean, when Jacob dies, what happens? They immediately go up to Israel and bury him and then come back, right? So when Joseph died, and we remember it's one of the last things that we read in the book of Genesis, right, is that Joseph died and was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt, right? So why did they not do the same for him, right? Why did they have to keep him, his embalmed body for 400 years, right? Joseph said, I was a ruler in Egypt and I had the ability to do this. As for my sons, the Egyptians will not let them do it. Therefore, he made them swear that when they would be redeemed and would leave Egypt, they would carry him out. All right, so it's interesting. I mean, it's very interesting, right? Because Joseph says, I can do this, right? I can, when my father dies, or when he died, I was the ruler in Egypt and I had the authority to do this, right? When I die, right, sic transit gloria mundi, right? And I find it really interesting, right? Because how does the book of Exodus begin, right? Vayakom melech hadash.
And when did this happen?
Right. There arose a new king who did not know Joseph, right? And now this is hundreds of years later. But Joseph is aware that his authority, the minute he's dead,
It's gone.
Yeah,
it's gone, right? It's not going to pass on to his children. It's, and
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, just look at, people don't even remember, I mean, how long has it been since the Holocaust or World War II? And people don't know.
Yes.
And we have much better systems of, most, at least in this country, we have much higher level of literacy, and it's been lost in 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Well, but
really
he's not even talking 60 years.
Yeah.
He's talking
Yeah, well, he's talking even longer.
right after. But
Right.
if you look at it, I mean, again, not to bring in current events, but Mitt Romney, right? I mean, he was the standard bearer of the Republican Party,
Yeah. And now he's a pariah.
and now he's a pariah, right? I mean, so, all right. So,
Things change.
yeah. V'halitem et atzmotai mize itchem. You shall bring up my bones from here with you. He made his brother swear in this manner. This teaches us that the bones of all of the tribes, meaning all of the other brothers, the progenitor of the tribe, also went up with him. Shenamar itchem. Right? In other words, Rashi is reading this very literally, right? Saying, well, you shall bring up my bones with you. He's reading it, you shall bring up my bones with your bones, right? And so all of the bones came up. Now, I am not aware, I mean, having said that, doesn't mean, just because I'm not aware of it doesn't mean it's not the case, but we have a place known as Joseph's tomb. Right, it's in Nablus, which was the biblical Shechem, and the Palestinian Authority was supposed to protect it, and they haven't, and it's been sacked and destroyed, and Israelis have in fact been killed trying to go there, which, not to justify, but it's also, dumb to go there, but I'm not aware that we have, the tribe of Reuben, the tomb of Reuben, the tomb of Benjamin, the tomb of God, the tomb of Asher. It doesn't mean that we don't, but I think I would have heard of it. Okay, so.
It would have been somewhere.
Right. All right, so going to skip ahead a little bit. 14:6. All right, so now Pharaoh has learned that the Hebrews have fled. 14:6. He ordered his chariot and took his men with him. Okay, bad translation. Pharaoh harnessed his chariot. Hu ba'atzmo, he did so personally. So it's not just that he ordered his chariot, he did it himself. Okay, and what it refers you to the Mechilta. Okay, now in the Mechilta uses this, and another incident, it says Ahava milkalkelet hashira and Sina milkalkelet hashira, that both love and hate disrupt the normal order of things, right? And so we go back to the story of the Akedah, right, where it says about Abraham, Vayachabosh et hamoro, he saddled his donkey, right? And then the Mechilta says, he's a wealthy guy with lots of servants, right? He took servants with him, right? why does it say he saddled his donkey, right? And not simply he ordered his donkey, right? He himself saddled his donkey, right? Because out of his zealousness to perform God's will, right? He wanted to do it himself, right? Even though it was, he had many servants who could have done it for him. He didn't think it was beneath his dignity to do it himself, right? And then it talks about Pharaoh harnessing his chariot. The same thing, right? Pharaoh was in such a hurry to go get the Israelites. He didn't wait, right? He didn't, call up, have the valet bring my car. No, he went and got his key and went into the garage
and got it,
himself, right? That both love and hate disrupt the normal order of things. Okay. Page 4. The et amo lakach imo. He took his people with them. He attracted them with his words. We suffered. They took our money and then we let them go. Come with me and I will not behave with you as do other kings. With other kings it is customary that their servants precede them in battle, but I will precede you. As indeed it is said, Pharaoh drew near. Pharaoh himself drew near and hastened before his armies. It is customary for other kings to take plunder at the beginning as much as he chooses, but I will share equally with you, as it is said, I will share the booty. Okay. Comments, thoughts? What? What did you say, Stan?
I yawned.
Okay.
What was it?
So,
He yawned.
for the other thing, I mean, it makes me think of the Torah, which is coming, where Sisera thinks that his mother, at least, thinks that he's out there gathering all the booty.
Right.
And he's dead. And she's looking out the window.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's a very poetic and literary Haftorah, right? But when it says he took them, right, means, I don't know. In other words, he didn't just order them, right? He convinced them, right? He sold them really a bill of goods. Right, we suffered. They took our money and then we let them go.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Something very familiar.
Right. I will not behave with you as do other kings. I will drain the swamp.
Yeah, right.
Right? Right?
Right.
Right. In other words, I'm with you all the way. I'm not just gonna send my generals. Right? I'll be right there with you.
And I will share the booty.
I will share the booty. Right? All right. He took 600 select chariots and all the chariots of Egypt with officers over them all. All right.
That's kind of weird. He took 600 select chariots and all the chariots. That's kind of weird, I mean, if he took, it's like saying, well, I'm going to take 600 select ones and then all the rest of them. But that's not what it says. It says they took 600 and all of the chariots.
That's why Rashi had a problem with it.
Right. No, he took 600 select chariots and then all the others.
Oh, okay. That's not, maybe it's the English, the way you could read it is, he took 600 select and all the chariots. Well, obviously the select ones are still chariots, so why?
Right. He took 600 of his picked chariots and the rest of the chariots of Egypt with. Right. It's a little, the language is a little weird, but I think that's what it means. He had 600 like super duper chariots and then all the rest of the chariots as well. V'chol rechev Mitzrayim, all the chariots of Egypt. The imahem kol shar harechev, and with them all the rest of the chariots, right? So the 600 chosen chariots plus all the rest. where did all these animals come from, right? Because if you have chariots,
You gotta have horses.
you got to have horses. Now this is fascinating. If you say they belong to the Egyptians, says already all the livestock of the Egyptians died,
Yeah.
right, during the plagues, right? If you say they belong to the Israelites, does it not say also our cattle will go with us? Whose were they if that was the case? They belonged to those who feared the word of the Lord, i.e. to those who drove their servants and their livestock into the houses in Exodus 9:20. From here, Rabbi Shimon would say, even the best of the Egyptians you must kill. Even the best of the serpents you must crush its head. All right, now this is obviously very troubling, right? Right, the idea is that there was this group of Egyptians who did believe Moses' warning, right? And it says that, right, in Exodus 9:20, right? Moses says there's going to be cattle disease, and Pharaoh said, screw this, right? And the animals of the Israelites didn't die, but we took our animals, right? So where are you getting the horses for all these chariots, right? If the livestock of the Israelites, we took our livestock, and the livestock of the Egyptians all died, well, there was a subgroup of Egyptians who did actually believe Moses, right? And they took their livestock inside, okay? And so this livestock was now available to be taken to be, what's the word I'm looking for? When the army commandeers something.
Commandeer, yeah.
Yeah, but there's another word.
We're in the Fourth Amendment.
Right.
Right.
Expropriates.
Yeah. Right. Expropriates. Right. Exactly. That this livestock was available to be expropriated or to be conscripted, really, to be conscripted. Yeah. Okay. And so Rabbi Shimon says, right now, this is interesting, right? Because these people feared the Lord, right? But because they feared the Lord, their livestock survived and was therefore available for Pharaoh to conscript. So Rabbi Shimon says, the best of the Egyptians you must kill. The best of the snakes you must crush its head. Right? So
he's saying that their animals that have survived, they're going to get it because they're going to get flooded. And I assume that Pharaoh was a serpent. But it's like these other guys were doing sort of the right thing, and you want to kill them too, just for the heck of it?
Well, not just for the heck of it, but I mean, the point is, if they had been killed right, then their livestock would have been killed too, and it wouldn't have been. But this idea that kill the best of the Egyptians, right? I mean, it's obviously, it's clearly troubling, and it's also, to my mind, contrary to halacha, right? Because there's a specific mitzvah not to hate the Egyptians.
Yeah, right.
Right? But it's in there, and the problem is, look, so in Rashi's time, it's a nasty comment, but that's all that there is, right? The Jews in Alsace are not going around killing Gentiles.
For sure.
That would not be a good idea.
Right?
For sure, yeah.
But there's always a context, right? And in today's Israel, not that 99.9% of Israelis wouldn't be appalled by this as well, right? But 0.1% of 8 million Israelis is still what? You do the math.
Right, on 1%.
0.1%.
0.1%, so that'd be 8,000.
8,000, right?
That's
If
still
you have
a lot of
8,000 people who think that, even the best of the Gentiles should be killed,
Mhm.
it's
Still
still a lot of people. It's still a lot of people, and it's a dangerous
Mhm.
situation. And people have quoted this and similar sayings, like Baruch Goldstein,
Yeah.
right, who went into the mosque in Hebron and, massacred 23 people at prayer, right? And again, yes, anything that Israelis have done, they have done worse.
Mhm.
That doesn't make
That
it
doesn't
right.
make it right.
Right.
That doesn't make it
Exactly.
right. Okay. All right, so let's go to 1430. Vayosha Adonai b'yomahu et Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim, right? And God delivered, the Lord delivered on that day Israel from the hands of the Egyptians. Vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim met al Sfat Hayam. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Or he says dying. All right. Vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim met. Shapaltan hayom al Sfato. Kadesha lo yomer Yisrael kashem sha'anu oli mitzad zeh kachem oli mitzad acher rachok mimenu v'yirtafu acharenu. So it was necessary for the Israelites to see the dead Egyptians on the seashore, lest they think, well, we came up here and maybe they came up there, and they're still going to chase after us. Okay, now, I think one of the things that Rashi is hinting at is something that won't be familiar to you, but there's the idea of Mayim sheyesh lahem sof and Mayim she'ein lahem sof. Waters that have an end and waters that have no end. All right, now this has to do with what happens if a person disappears at sea, right? There's no, in U.S. common law, in English common law, right? There's this concept of having somebody declared legally dead, right? If somebody disappears and they, not heard from for X number of years, go to court, have them declared legally dead. Their spouse can remarry, the inheritance passes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? No such thing in halakha, right? In order for somebody to be declared dead, there has to be a body, right? Now, there are certain exceptions because sometimes circumstantial evidence is good enough, right? So let's say somebody is swimming in a lake and they disappear, right? And now, again, they didn't have scuba equipment, et cetera, right? Today, we could say that if somebody disappeared in the lake, you could dredge the lake, you could send scuba divers down, and eventually, even if the person, drowned, they got their leg caught in a tree and they couldn't get out, whatever, you would find the body, right? But obviously, in previous eras, that wasn't so, right? So somebody disappears in Lake Whetstone and never comes up, right? We would say this is Mayim sheyesh lahem sof, right? Water that has an end. If he had come up, somebody would have seen him, right? It's not such a huge body of water that nobody would have seen him if he had come up, right? But the ocean, that's Mayim she'ein lahem sof, right? And it's conceivable that, he was unconscious and he was floating in the ocean, and he washed up on the shore hundreds of miles away.
Sort of just the opposite of what we'd think of now.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't know, right? You don't know. And so I think this is part of what is going through Rashi's mind, right? In other words, how do I know they're really dead? How do I know they're really, well, because I saw them. I saw their bodies, right? Otherwise, I might, right?
Otherwise, you just would assume they could have.
Right. Okay. So, so this was necessary to sort of set their own minds at ease that they wouldn't be subsequently pursued. Okay. And Israel saw the great hand which the Lord had used upon the Egyptians. All right. I'm going to skip a little bit. All right. Let's look at 15:3, okay? The second comment. Adonai, right, it says, Adonai ish milchama, Adonai shemo. The Lord is his name. Okay? You see the Rashi there?
Yeah.
All right, the second Rashi on page 6. His wars are not waged with weapons, but he wages battle with his name. As David said to Goliath, you come to me with spear and javelin, and I come to you with the name of the Lord of hosts, right? And there are other similar verses in various Psalms and so on. There's one, Ele berecha ve'ele besusim v'anachnu b'shem Hashem naskir. Some trust in chariots and some trust in horses, but we call on the name of the Lord, right? So that God fights not with weapons, but with his name. Okay, another explanation. The Lord Adonai, Yud He Vav He, denoting the divine standard of clemency, right? So one of the standard rabbinic interpretations, right, there's two divine names, Adonai and Elohim. Right? Elohim is God in the strict attribute of justice. Adonai is God in the attribute of mercy. Right? Even when he wages war and takes vengeance upon his enemies, he sticks to his behavior of having mercy on his creatures and nourishing all those who enter the world, unlike the behavior of earthly kings. All right, now at first you might think, wait, he wages war in a merciful way? Right? He was merciful to the Egyptians, right? It's like, I don't know if any of you saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail, right? But at one point...
The whole point of Spamalot?
Yeah.
Spamalot.
Right, okay. So there's the holy hand grenade of Antioch, right?
Yeah.
And Brother Maynard blesses it. Oh Lord, bless this thy holy hand grenade, that with it thine enemies may be blown to tiny bits in thy mercy. Right? But that's not what he means.
No.
What he means is, unlike the behavior of earthly kings, when an earthly king is engaged in war, he turns away from all his other affairs and does not have the ability to do both things, right? In other words, you get what Rashi is saying? In other words, if...
You forget about the rest of...
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if an earthly king, if he's leading his people in war, he doesn't have time to worry about, do the civilians back home, do they have enough food? Do they have health care? Do they have where to live? Right? This is a war footing, right? But God can multitask, right? God, even though God is busy engaged in war, God at the same time is doing all the other God stuff, right? I mean, rain is still falling, crops are growing, babies are being born, all of that stuff. God can fight war, right? God can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? And you know, it's an interesting thought. I mean, you know, very often, you know, I mean, frankly, I have never lived through a period where the United States has been really fully mobilized for war, right? Even in Vietnam, you know.
I was the
You were
child during
old
World
enough to
War
remember.
II, and I do have some memories of World War, of World War II because I was in elementary school at the
Right.
time, and they're so vivid. You know, there are certain things that you don't of life at that time. You know,
Right, and
because I was 9 years old when the war
Yeah,
ended.
but if you think of like medieval war, I mean, if the guys had their, you know, it was the fall and they were harvesting stuff, well, the army's coming in and taking all the food, you know, then they're, you know,
Right.
The peasants paid the price for it.
Right.
Always.
no, but
always,
but I suspect that during World War II, I'm not saying people in this country were allowed to starve to
We
death.
weren't starving, but things were limited.
But things were-
Okay. One thing I remember very clearly, there was a crisis in the family. My sister was born in 1943, and she was a kind of little kid who got into everything. And in 1945, my father forgot to close the pantry door, to lock the pantry door to keep her out of there. My mother's purse. She got in my mother's purse and tore up the ration coupons.
Ooh.
And that was a real crisis
Yeah.
for the family, which, you know, all the relatives pulled to help get us through that period.
Right. And so, you know, I mean, the economy really put everything else on the back burner because of war. Now, of course, even though, you know, a lot of people, and especially Jews, thought FDR was God, in fact, he wasn't.
Far from it, yes.
Right? But God is God,
Yeah.
and God can do more than one thing at the same time. All right, I'm gonna one last one because I think it's interesting. So the very bottom of page 7. All right. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, norah tehilot osei feleh. All right, who is like you among the powerful? But that's not what the word it means. What is Elim? What does the word El mean? God.
Yeah.
Right?
The Elim, God's
Right.
plural.
Who is like you among the other gods?
Yeah.
Right? That's probably what it originally meant, right? I mean, we have discussed the whole concept of henotheism,
Yeah.
right? Where other gods exist, but we worship Adonai, who is the most powerful. Right? So probably originally it did mean gods. Who is like you among the gods? Adonai. Who is like you, powerful in your holy place, too awesome for praises, working wonders. All right, so Rashi is going to try to explain that Elim means powerful, right? But I'm not gonna. I think he's wrong, and we're not gonna look at that. I want to look at the second. Norah tehilot. Norah tehilot, right? What is I want to see how it's translated here. Awesome in splendor, working wonders. All right. Rashi says, Yarui mila hagid tehilotav pen yimatu kamosha katuv lacha dumiyat tehila. Too awesome for praises. So Rashi reads this quite literally. Too awesome for one to recite your praises, lest they fall short, as it is written, silence is praise to you. All right. Now, there is this sense, I mean, and if you look at virtually everything in the Siddur that is praise of God, okay, they are direct biblical quotes. And there's a reason for that, right? In other words, if we were to try to praise God, we couldn't do it, right? I mean, it's that like, Yilupinu Malay Shirak Hayam, if our mouths were filled with song like the sea, Ilupinu Malay Shirak Hayam, Ushonenu Rina Kahamon Galav, and our tongues filled with praise like its many waves, we could not tell, right? So, in other words, don't try to praise God, right, in your own words. Can't be done. Can't be done. Just rely on stuff from the Bible because that's already there. Okay? And there's a story in the, I don't know if it's in the Mishnah or the Gemara, right? But it's in Masechet Brachot, right? We have Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, right? About Chazan. Now remember, in Mishnaic times, the Chazan riffed on their own prayer. It was like rap. In other words, you had a basic structure, but the Chazan could go on, right? And instead of saying Ha'el, Hagadol, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hanora. What? Ha'el, Hagadol, Gibor v'Hanora El Elyon. Right? He started going off. Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, Ha'amazing, Ha'fantastic, Ha'zeh, da da da. And they took him down. You can't possibly come up with sufficient praise for God. Right? Stick with what's in the Siddur. Right? Stick with what's in the Siddur because that's from scriptures. Right? You think that you are better at praising God than the scriptures are? You're not. Okay? You're fired. Okay? So that's what No Ra Tehilot means for Rashi. Right? We can't possibly sing all of God's praises. So don't even try. Stick with what's in the text. Okay? All right. Good night, everybody. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Thank you very much, Rabbi.